I got here right in time to see you two being super cute.
But not in time for me to not be naked.
Oh, even better. How are you folks doing other than potentially partially nude?
I feel like I missed something here, and I'm quite sad about missing it.
I mean, I missed it too.
I mean, I'm just here quietly stripping.
Throw us an article of clothing. Or don't. Yeah! Woo! Oh, that's what I would have done too. Thanks, Nick.
Got your back.
Can I tell you guys about the exciting thing I'm doing later?
Is it your poetry thing?
It's a different poetry thing, potentially. Maybe it's the poetry thing you know about. I'm reading poetry tonight at an autism variety show.
Yay!
Ooh.
Yeah, there's going to be some stand-up comedy and some burlesque and apparently love poems. And I don't know what other people are doing, but yeah, I'm really excited about it.
This sounds amazing.
Great.
So, you know, if you're awake at midnight for any reason and bored, shoot me a message and I'll send you a link.
Sounds amazing.
Good luck. Hope it goes well.
Thanks. It's nice doing that from home because then nobody has to know just how clearly I have the words in front of me. And I get to be comfortable and in my space where I usually read poetry to you folks. So it'll be a lot less weird than like reading it on a stage for humans.
Yay!
Not this time, I think. Not this time. What? Not this time. What? Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. How was your day and your time in the park?
Delightful.
Oh my God, it was so nice. It was so nice. It was so nice.
Hung out with Sean, not through a video screen.
I hung out with Sean. It was the first time I've ever been with Sean in real.
Face.
It was very exciting and nice.
Mm-hmm.
She's even more beautiful in real life. And
I haven't met her in real life, and that does not surprise me at all.
just you wait. Just you wait. She's awesome.
I will prepare to swoon.
And we drank some cider.
It was delicious cider.
Which was very nice. And then we
And
just
curry.
We had a curry.
Also very nice.
It was so good. And I got
What
a
kind
bit
of curry?
overwhelmed about what it's like to live in a city
With good curry.
with good food around.
Oh, it's so nice.
Where do you get a good curry in Bristol these days? I haven't been for years for curry in Bristol.
Many places.
There's so many places. Every time I'm in Bristol, Zach and I go for curry at least once, sometimes 2+ times.
That is awesome, and I love it. I approve this. This was from a place called...
It's just opened. Don't know what it was called.
It's called something. It has a name. It's called something Street.
Yes.
As a street.
Yeah.
And they do street food, as you might expect. It was very nice. We got a fish thing
And a tomato paneer thing.
paneer. Well, I mean, it's very boring of us to tell you everything that we ate, but it was all delicious.
How's everyone else
How's
doing?
everyone else is doing? Thank you, thank
Yeah.
you, thank you. Yes. How are y'all?
I like
Katie,
Bristol.
I'm suddenly missing Bristol, to be honest.
oh, come to us.
It's a good place.
Come to us. I like your birds, Duncan.
Thank you. They are inspiration for a project in progress.
Oh, they're lovely. Is the light shining out of the side of your head?
Yes, yeah, that happens sometimes.
Ah.
My head just is like that. It's a problem.
It's a very bright place. Sometimes too bright for your
Yeah,
own good. Yeah.
yeah, it's cool. It's a good look.
Katie and Nick look very snuggly.
Nick looks so snuggly.
So
Oh,
snuggly.
that little Nick, will you give her just like a little, just that hand that's on her
the
shoulder,
one
just
arm
like
squeeze.
a little squeeze, a little bit of a squeeze there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bracken looks all cozy.
Bracken looks cozy.
As I drank 4 beers in the park and now I'm like gently hungover.
I had like
Oh, sweetie, I'm sorry that you are gently. I'm glad it's gentle, but I'm sorry that you're hungover.
Very gentle, everything's fine. It was sunny, there was beers, I had a lovely time, no regrets.
That sounds thoroughly nice.
Don't forget to hydrate.
Oh yeah, Rory's making us some tea, which is very nice of him. So.
What a babe.
Lovely. Hi, Ash.
Hi, Ash.
Hi, Ash.
And Ashra.
Hi, Ash and Ashera.
Next to each other on the screen, very conveniently.
Next is Asherist.
And Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa. Hi. Whom we love and adore in your own right, and not as simply a convenient holder for the most adorable baby. How are you, Lisa?
Kind of appreciate you for pointing that out, but it feels a bit weird that you had to.
I felt bad that I saw the two of you and I was like, "Hi, Ash." And I just wanted to reaffirm that you're my favorite.
Don't tell Ash.
You're my favorite.
Look at his face.
Oh,
Very excited. Sorry,
Ash.
Jenny.
Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
Jenny. Hi, Secret Tara.
Secret Tara.
Hmm.
Oh,
Oh
I
no.
don't know. Oh, no.
Oh no.
My
What
bad.
just happened?
I swiped too much.
Oh no. You're back.
Sorry.
They came back.
Zach's interfering with the technology. Oh, this is nice light for you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ash agrees.
Ash agrees.
He's very passionate about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, got a strong aesthetic sense.
He has such strong views.
Yes.
Well expressed.
Quite
Well,
right.
quite. Relatable. Oh, everybody. I'm very full of love. I'm very full of love for all of you.
Oh, me too.
Love. This is yeah, transitive hugs. Yeah. This is what you hope you can.
Can you ruffle her hair for me?
Oh, that's right. Oh no.
Oh, dear.
Oh no.
Oh, dear.
Disgusting.
Will you make your grumpy faces, but then like squish the sides of your cheeks really close together for me? I'll keep like.
Yeah, take the glasses off.
Yeah.
Get right in there.
Come on, grumpy faces. Come on. We've got a job to do.
Rub your faces together. Yeah.
They're grumping
Thank
all
you. I
over
love
each
you
other.
both so much. You make my dreams come true.
Oh, Frankie, you've got a little bit of grump just left over on your cheek there.
Oh, it's just.
Yeah.
I'm so ashamed.
Oh, it's recording
Why?
as well.
So ashamed.
I
You
love
hear that?
seeing you both like extra smiley and love high and stuff. It's so fucking cute and contagious.
Buddy. Buddy.
Storytime.
Yeah.
Yay! Okay, listen. That's quite enough of that smiling nonsense. We'll have no more of that. Serious faces only now for this serious business. Rick. Too cute. Can't bear it. Now, you beautiful lot. Lights of my life. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Chapter 7. Viens. Saturday, 22nd of December. Till after the party. What does she mean? Surely there can be no party now with this strange threat hanging over our heads. That was my first reaction when Zosie had gone to bed and I was left in the freezing kitchen to think out my plan of defense. My instincts all tell me to throw her out. I know I could, but the thought of what effect that might have on my customers, let alone on Anouk, makes it quite impossible. And as for the party, well, I am not unaware that over the past couple of weeks, this party has taken on a significance far greater than any of us could have imagined. For Anouk, it is a celebration of us, an expression of hope, and maybe we still share the same perpetual fantasy that Rue will come back and that everything will be made miraculously new. As for our customers, no, our friends, so many have contributed over the past few days, bringing food, wine, decorations for the Advent house, the Christmas tree itself donated by the florists for whom little Alice works, champagne offered by Madame Luzeron, glasses and crockery supplied by Nico's restaurant, organic meat by Jean-Louis and Paul, who paid for it, I suspect, with flattery and a portrait of the supplier's wife. Even Laurent brought something, mostly sugar lumps, I'll admit, and it's so good to be a community again, to feel included, to be a part of something larger than just the little campfire circle we make for ourselves. I'd always thought Montmartre such a cold place. Its people so rude and contemptuous with their vieux Paris snobbery and their mistrust of strangers. But now I can see there's a heart behind the cobblestones. Zosie taught me that, at least. Zosie, who plays my part as well as I ever did myself. There's a story my mother used to tell. Like all her stories, it's about herself. A fact I came to realize too late, when the doubts I'd had in the long months leading up to her death became too much for me to ignore, and I went in search of Sylviane Caylou. What I found confirmed what my mother had said in the delirium of her final days. You choose your family, she said, and she'd chosen me. 18 months old and somehow hers, like a parcel delivered to the wrong address that she could legitimately claim. She wouldn't have cherished you, she'd said. She was careless. She let you go. But the guilt of it had followed her across continents, a guilt that eventually turned to fear. That was my mother's real weakness, that fear. And it kept her running all her life. Fear that someone would take me away. Fear that one day I'd learn the truth. Fear that she had been wrong all those years ago. That she had cheated a stranger out of her life, and that in the end she would have to pay. The story goes like this. A widow woman had a daughter whom she cherished above all things. They lived in a cottage in the wood, and though they were poor, they were as happy together as any two people have ever been, before or since. In fact, they were so happy that the Queen of Hearts, who lived nearby, heard of them and was envious, and set out to collect the daughter's heart. For although she had 1,000 lovers and more than 100,000 slaves, she was always hungry for more. And she knew that she could never rest, knowing that there was a single heart out there that had been given to another. And so the Queen of Hearts made her way quietly to the widow's cottage. And as she hid among the trees, she saw the daughter playing alone. For the cottage was a long way from even the nearest village, and there were no playmates to share the daughter's game. So the queen, who was no queen at all, but a powerful witch, changed her shape to that of a little black cat, and strolled out, tail high, from between the trees. And all day the child played with the cat, which gambolled and chased pieces of string and climbed trees and came at her call and ate from her hand, and was undoubtedly the most playful and picture-perfect of pretty kitty cats any child had ever seen. But for all its purring and preening, the cat could not steal the daughter's heart. And when night came, the child went indoors to where her mother had laid dinner on the table. And the Queen of Hearts yowled her displeasure to the night, and ripped out the hearts of many small nocturnal creatures, but was not satisfied, and wanted the child's heart even more than before. So, on the second day, she changed into a handsome young man, and lay in wait for the widow's daughter as she searched for her kitty cat in the woods. Now the daughter had never seen a young man, except from afar on market days, and this one was glorious in every way. Black hair, blue eyes, fresh as a girl, but all boy. And she forgot about the kitty cat, and they walked and talked and laughed and ran together through the forest like fallow deer in season. But when night came and he dared steal a kiss, the daughter's heart still belonged to her mother. And that night the queen hunted deer and cut out their hearts and ate them raw. But still she was not satisfied, and longed for the child more than ever. So, on the morning of the third day, the witch did not change her shape, but instead stayed close to the house and watched. And as the child went off in vain to search for her friend of the previous day, the Queen of Hearts kept her eyes fixed on the child's mother. She watched as the mother washed clothes in the stream, and knew that she could do it better. She watched as the mother cleaned the house, and knew that she could do it better. And as night fell, she took the shape of the mother herself, her smiling face, her gentle hands. And when the daughter came back home, there were two mothers there to greet her. What on earth could the mother do? The Queen of Hearts had studied her, had copied every gesture, every mannerism too flawlessly to be caught out. Everything she did, the witch could do better, faster, more perfectly. And so the mother set the table with another place for the visitor. "I'll make dinner," said the Queen. "I know all your favourites." "We'll both make dinner," said the mother, "and then my daughter will decide." "My daughter," said the witch, "and I think I know the way to her heart." Well, the mother was a good cook, and she had never worked harder over a meal, not at Easter, not at Yule. But the witch had magic on her side, and her glamours were very powerful. The mother knew all the child's favourites, but the Queen knew those she had yet to discover, and she set them effortlessly on the table, one by one, throughout the meal. They began with a winter soup, lovingly cooked in a copper pot with a shin bone left over from Sunday lunch. But the witch brought in a light bouillon, simmered with the sweetest of baby shallots and scented with ginger and lemongrass, and served with croutons so crisp and small that they seemed to vanish in her mouth. The mother brought in the second course. Sausages and potato mash, a comforting dish the child always loved, with sticky onion marmalade. But the witch brought in a brace of quail that had been gorged on ripe figs all their lives, now roasted and stuffed with chestnuts and foie gras and served with a coulis of pomegranate. Now the mother was close to despair. She brought dessert, a stout apple pie made to her mother's recipe. But the witch had made a pièce montée, a pastel-coloured sugared dream of almonds, summer fruits and pastries like a puff of air, all served with rose and marshmallow cream and served with a glass of Chateau d'Yquem. And the mother said, "All right, you win," as her heart just snapped clean in two with a sound like popcorn in the pan. And the witch smiled and reached for her prey. But the daughter did not return her embrace. Instead, she fell to her knees on the floor. "Mother, don't die. I know it's you." And the Queen of Hearts gave a scream of rage as she realized that even now, in a moment of her triumph, the child's heart was still not hers. And she screamed so loudly and so furiously that her head exploded like a fair day balloon, and the Queen of Hearts in her terminal wrath became the queen of nothing at all. As for the ending of the tale, well, that depended on my mother's mood. In one version, the mother survives, and she and the child live alone forever in their cottage in the woods. On darker days, the mother dies, and the child is left alone in her grief. And there is a third version, where the imposter, in a final twist, foresees the mother's broken heart and collapses herself, thus prompting a vow of eternal love from the child, while a real mother stands by, unable to speak, discarded and powerless as the witch begins to feed. I never told Anouk that tale. It frightened me then as it frightens me now. In stories we find the truth, and though no one outside of a fairy tale ever died of a broken heart, the Queen of Hearts is very real. although she does not always go by that name. But we've faced her before, Anouk and I. She's the wind that blows at the turn of the year. She's the sound of one hand clapping. She's the lump in your mother's breast. She's the absent look in your daughter's eyes. She's the cry of the cat. She's in the confessional. She's hiding inside the black piñata. But most of all, she is simply death. Greedy old Mictecatuatl herself, Santa Muerte, the eater of hearts, most terrible of the kindly ones. And now it's time to face her again. To pick up my weapons, such as they are, and to stand and fight for the life we have made. But for that, I need to be Vianne Rocher, if ever I can find her again. The Vianne Rocher who faced down the black man at the Grand Festival du Chocolat. The Vianne Rocher who knows everyone's favourites. The peddler of sweet dreams, small temptations, treats, trinkets, tricks, petty indulgences, and everyday magic. If only I can find her in time. Chapter 8. Anouk. Saturday, 22nd of December. It must have snowed during the night. Just a thin scattering for now, turning to grey slush nearly at once. Still, it's a start. There'll be more soon. You can already see it in the clouds. Clouds so heavy and dark below the butte that they're practically touching the church spires. Clouds only look lighter than air, but actually the water in just one of those clouds could weigh millions of tons. Jean-Luc says, that's a whole multi-story full of cars parked up there, just waiting to fall, today or tomorrow, in tiny little flakes of snow. On the butte is Christmas in a big way. There's a fat Santa Claus sitting at the terrace of Chez Eugène, drinking café crème and scaring the kids. The artists are out in force too, and there's a little band of college students playing hymns and Christmas songs just outside the church. I'd arranged to meet Jean-Luc this morning, and Rosette wanted to see the Nativity again. So I took her out for a little walk while Maman worked and Zosie went out to do some shopping. Neither of them mentioned what happened last night, but they both looked okay this morning, so I guess Zosie must have sorted things out. Maman was wearing her red dress, the one that always makes her feel good, and she was talking about recipes and everything sounded so cheerful and right. Jean-Luc was waiting in Place du Tertre when I finally got there with Rosette. Everything takes time with Rosette. Anorak, boots, hat and gloves, and it was nearly 11 by the time we got there. Jean-Luc had his camera, the big one with the special lens, and he was taking pictures of people going by. Foreign tourists, children watching the Nativity, the fat Santa smoking a cigar. Hey, it's you! That was Jean-Louis with his sketch pad, trying to pick up a tourist girl. He chooses them for their handbags, you know. He has a sliding scale of tariffs based entirely on the style of the bag, and he can always spot a fake. Fakes never fork out, he says, but show me a nice Louis Vuitton and I'm in. Jean-Luc laughed when I told him that. Rosette laughed too, though I don't think she really understood. She likes Jean-Luc and his camera. Picture, she signs when she sees him now. She means the digital camera, of course. She likes to pose for a photograph and see it at once in the little box. Then Jean-Loup suggested going down to the cemetery to see what was left of last night's snow. So we went down the steps by the funicular and walked along to Rue Caulaincourt. Can you see the cats, Rosette? I said as we looked down from the metal bridge into the cemetery. Someone must have been feeding them, because there were a couple of dozen of them, sitting around the entrance, where the lower level of the cemetery leads to a big round flower bed with long, straight avenues of tombs branching out like compass points. We went down the steps to Avenue Rachel. It's dark down there, with the bridge overhead and the heavy clouds pressing down. Jean-Loup had said there'd be more snow here, and he was right. Every tomb had its white beret, though it was wet and pocked with holes, and you could tell it wouldn't last. But Rosette loves snow. She kept picking bits up between her fingers and laughing silently when it disappeared. And then I saw him waiting for us. I wasn't even really surprised. Sitting very still next to Dalida's tomb, a carved figure all in grey, with only the pale plume of his breath to show that he was alive at all. "Rue," I said. He grinned at me. "What do you think you're doing here?" "Well, thanks for the welcome." He smiled at Rosette and pulled out something from his pocket. "Happy birthday, Rosette," he said. It was a whistle, made from a single piece of wood and polished to a silky shine. Rosette took it and put it in her mouth. "Not that way, this way." He demonstrated, blowing into the opening. It made a high squee sound, much louder than you'd have expected, and Rosette's face opened in a big, happy smile. "She likes it," said Rue. He looked at Jean-Loup. "And you must be the photographer." "Where have you been all this time?" I said. "People have been looking for you." "I know," he said. "That's why I checked out." He picked up Rosette and tickled her. She put out a hand to touch his hair. "Be serious, Rue." I frowned at him. "The police were here and everything. They're saying you forged a check. I told them it was a mistake, that you'd never do a thing like that." Maybe it was the light or something, but I couldn't make out his reaction to that. The December light, with the street lamps on early, and that splatter of snow against the stone making everything else look darker still. Anyway, I just couldn't see. His colours were burning very low, and I couldn't tell if he was scared or angry or even surprised. "Is that what Vianne thinks?" "I don't know." "Her faith in me is awesome, isn't it?" He shook his head ruefully, but I could see he was grinning. "Still, I hear the wedding's off. Can't say I'm heartbroken about that." "You should have been a spy," I said. "How do you find all that out so fast?" He shrugged. "People talk. I listen," he said. "So where are you staying now?" I asked. Not the hostel, I knew that already. But he looked, if anything, even worse than last time we'd met. Pale and unshaven and very tired. And now I'd found him here again. People do sleep in the cemetery. The gardien turns a blind eye as long as they don't make a mess, but you can sometimes find a stash of blankets or an old kettle, or a trash can packed with fuel for tonight's fire, or a neat little stack of tins hidden away inside some chapel of rest that no one uses anymore. And sometimes at night, so John Doe says, you can see as many as 6 little fires in different spots inside the cemetery walls. "You're sleeping here, aren't you?" I said. "I'm sleeping on my boat," said Rue. But he was lying. I could see that at once. And I didn't believe he had a boat. If he had, he wouldn't be here, and he wouldn't have stayed at Rue de Clichy. But Rue wasn't telling. He just kept playing with Rosette, tickling her and making her laugh, while Rosette made wet squee noises with her new whistle and laughed in that silent way she has, with her mouth open wide as a frog's. "So what are you going to do now?" I said. "Well, for a start, I've got a party to go to on Christmas Eve. Or had you forgotten?" He made a face at Rosette, who laughed and hid her face behind her hands. I was beginning to think that Rue wasn't taking any of this seriously enough. "You're coming?" I said. "Do you think it's safe?" "I promised, didn't I?" he said. "In fact, I've got a surprise for you." "A present?" He grinned. "Just wait and see." I was dying to tell Maman I'd seen Rue. But after last night, I knew I had to be careful. There are things I don't quite dare tell her now, in case she gets angry or doesn't understand. With Zosie, of course, it's different. We talk about all kinds of things. In her room, I wear my red shoes and we sit on her bed with the furry blanket over our knees. And she tells me stories about Quetzalcoatl and Jesus and Osiris and Mithras and Seven Macaw. The kind of stories Maman used to tell, but doesn't have time for anymore. I guess she thinks I'm too old for stories. She's always telling me I should grow up. Zosie says growing up's overrated. She never wants to settle down. There are too many places she hasn't seen. She won't give them up for anyone. "Not even for me?" I said tonight. She smiled, but I thought she looked sad at that. "Not even for you, little Nanu." "But you're not going away," I said. She shrugged. "That depends." "Depends on what?" "Well, on your mother, for a start." "What do you mean?" She gave a sigh. "I wasn't going to tell you," she said. "But your mother and we've been talking. And we've decided, well, she's decided that maybe it's time for me to move out." "Move out?" I said. "Winds change, Nanu." And that was so close to what Maman might have said that it took me right back to Les Laveuses and that wind and the kindly ones. But this time I wasn't remembering. I was thinking about Ehekatl, the changing wind, and I was seeing things as they would be if Zosie left us. Her room deserted, dust on the floor, everything just ordinary again, just a little chocolate shop with nothing special anymore. "You can't," I said wildly. "We need you here." She shook her head. "You needed me. But look at you now. Business is good, you've got lots of friends. You don't need me anymore. As for me, I have to move on. Ride that wind to wherever it goes." A horrible thought came to me. "This is about me, isn't it?" I said. It's about what we've been doing here. Our lessons and the peg dolls and everything. She's afraid that if you stay, there'll be another accident. Zosie shrugged. I won't lie to you, but I didn't think she'd be so jealous. Jealous? Maman? Well, of course, said Zosie. Remember, she used to be like us once, free to go wherever she liked. But now she's got other responsibilities. She can't just do what she wants anymore. And whenever she looks at you now, Nanu, well, maybe it just reminds her too much of everything she's had to give up. But that's not fair. Zosie smiled. No one said it was fair, she said. It's about control. You're growing up. You're developing skills. You're growing beyond your mother's authority. It makes her anxious, makes her scared. She thinks I'm taking you away from her, giving you things she can't give you herself. And that's why I have to leave, Nanu. Before something happens, we'll both regret. But what about the party? I said. If you want me, I'll stay till then. She put her arms around me and hugged me tight. Listen, Nanu, I know it's hard, but I want you to have what I never had. A family, a home, a place of your own. And if the wind needs a sacrifice, then let it be me. I've nothing to lose. Besides, she gave a little sigh, I don't want to settle down. I don't want to spend my life wondering what's over the next hill. I would have left sooner or later, and now's as good a time as any. She pulled the blanket over us both. I shut my eyes tight, not wanting to cry, but I could feel a lump in the back of my throat like I'd swallowed a little potato whole. But I love you, Zosie. I couldn't see her face. My eyes were still shut, but I felt her let out a long, deep sigh, like air that's been trapped for a long time in a sealed box or underground. I love you too, Nanu, she said. We stayed like that for a long time, sitting up in bed, wrapped up in the blanket. Outside, the wind started up again, and I was glad there were no trees on the butte, because the way I was feeling just then, I think I could have let them all come crashing down if that could have persuaded Zosie to stay and made the wind take someone else. Chapter 9. Zosie. Sunday, 23rd of December. What a performance. Told you so. In another life, I'd have made a fortune in the movie business. Certainly had Anouk convinced. The seeds of doubt are germinating nicely, which should serve me well come Christmas Eve. I don't think she'll mention our talk to Vianne. My little Nanu is secretive. She does not share her thoughts so easily. And her mother has let her down, of course, has lied to her on several points, and on top of all that is evicting her friend. She too can dissemble when required. Today she looked a little withdrawn, though I doubt whether Vianne will have noticed that. She's too busy planning tomorrow's celebration to wonder at her daughter's sudden lack of excitement, or to ask herself where she has been all day while cakes baked and spiced wines simmered. Of course, I too have plans to fulfill, but mine are rather less culinary in emphasis. Vianne's kind of magic, such as it is far too domestic for my taste. Don't think I can't see what you're doing, Vianne. The place is alive with petty seductions, rose-scented treats, miracles and macaroons. And Vianne herself, in that red dress with a red silk flower in her hair. Who do you think you're fooling, Vianne? Why bother when I do it so much better? I was out for most of the day. People to see, things to do. Today I ditched all that was left of my current identities, including Mercedes Témoin, Emma Windsor, and even Noël Marcelin. I have to admit, it caused me a pang. But too much ballast slows you down. And besides, I won't be needing them. After that, it was time for a few social calls. Madame from Le Stendhal, who is coming on nicely. Thierry Le Tressé, who has been watching the chocolaterie from nearby in the vain hope of a glimpse of Rue. And Rue himself, who has checked out of his digs by the cemetery and into the cemetery itself, where a small chapel of rest serves as his current home. It's comfortable enough, I dare say. These tombs were built in the days when the wealthy dead were housed in a luxury undreamt of by the living poor. And with the help of regular doses of misinformation, sympathy, rumour, flattery, not to mention cash and a steady supply of my very own specials, I have ensured, if not his trust and affection, at least his presence on Christmas Eve. I found him at the back of the cemetery, near the wall that divides it from the Rue Jean Le Maistre. It's the furthest place from the entrance lodge, where broken and abandoned graves lie among compost and rubbish bins. And that's where the down-and-outs assemble around a fire that burns in a metal can. Today there were half a dozen of them, dressed in coats too big for them and boots as scarred and cracked as their hands. Most were old. The young ones can earn their cash in Pigalle, where youth is always in demand. And one of them had a cough that started deep in his lungs and hacked its way out every minute or so. They looked at me incuriously as I picked my way through the neglected graves towards the little circle of men. Rue met me with his usual lack of enthusiasm. You again. So glad you're pleased. I handed him a parcel of food, coffee, sugar, cheese, some sausages from the butcher's around the corner, and some buckwheat pancakes to wrap them in. Don't share it with the cats this time. Thanks. At last he deigned to smile. How's Vianne? She's fine. She misses you. It's a small flattery that never fails. And Mr. Big? He's coming round. I've managed to convince Rue that Thierry calling the police is just a ploy to get Vianne back on his side. I have not gone into details of the charge, but I have led him to believe that it has already been dropped for lack of evidence. The only danger now, I have told him, is that Thierry, in a fit of pique, will evict Vianne from her home in the chocolaterie if she transfers her allegiance too quickly to Rue. And so he must be patient a while, wait for the dust to settle, and trust me to make Thierry see sense. Meanwhile, I pretend to believe in his boat, moored, he says, in the Port de l'Arsenal. Its existence, even fictional, makes him a man of property, a man of pride who, far from accepting charity from me in the shape of food parcels and loose change, is actually doing us all a favour by staying close by to watch over Vianne. Been to check on the boat today? He shook his head. Later, perhaps. This is another fiction I pretend to believe. That he goes over to the Arsenal every day to check on his boat. Of course, I know he does no such thing. But I rather like to see him squirm. If Thierry won't see sense, I said, it's a comfort to think that Vianne and the kids could stay with you on the boat for a while. At least till they find another place. Never easy at this time of year. He glared at me. That's not what I want. I gave him my sweetest smile. Of course not, I said. It's just nice to know there's the option, that's all. So how are you set for tomorrow, Prue? Need any clothes washing? Once more he shook his head, and I wondered how he'd managed so far. There's a laundrette round the corner, of course, and some public showers off the Rue Ganeron. That's probably where he goes, I thought. He must think I'm an imbecile. Still, I need him for a little longer. After tomorrow, it won't matter anymore. After that, he can go to perdition any way he likes. Why are you doing this, Zosie? It's a question he has asked before, with a growing suspicion that only increases with every attempt I make at seduction. Some men are just like that, I think, impervious to my kind of charm. Still, it rankles. He owes me so much, scarcely a word of gratitude. You know why I'm doing it, Rue, I said, allowing a trace of asperity to enter my voice. I'm doing it for Vianne and the kids, for Rosette, who deserves a father, for Vianne, who has never got over you, and, I'll admit it, for myself, because if Vianne goes, I go, and I've come to like that chocolaterie, and I don't see why I should have to leave. That convinced him. I knew it would. A suspicious type like Rue mistrusts anything close to altruism. Well, he would. Rue, who acts out of self-interest, who is only here now because he sees some profit in it for himself, some share in Vianne's lucrative business, perhaps, now that he knows Rosette is his child. It was 3 o'clock when I returned to the chocolaterie, and already it was getting dark. Vianne was serving a customer, and though she looked at me sharply as I came in, her greeting was pleasant enough. I know what she's thinking. Folk like Zosie. To advertise her hostility now would be damaging only to Vianne herself. Already she is wondering if my threats of the other night were designed to lure her into an ill-considered attack, to show her colours too soon and thereby lose the safe ground. The battle begins tomorrow, she thinks. Canapés and frivolities, sweet enough to tempt the saints. They will be her weapons of choice. And how naive of her to imagine that I will respond in kind. Domestic magic is such a bore. Ask any child, and you'll see how they prefer the villains to the heroes of the books they read. The wicked witches and hungry wolves to the plain vanilla princes and princesses. Anouk is no exception, I'll bet. Still, we'll have to wait and see. Go ahead, Vian. Attend to your pots. See what domestic magic can do while I work on my own recipe. According to popular tradition, the way to the heart is through the stomach. Personally, I prefer a more direct approach.
I can't believe we have to wait an entire weekend.
An entire
And
long
Monday.
weekend.
Oh,
Yeah. It's going to be so good. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is going to be so good.
I really hope when you pick up again on Monday, like Zosie's monologue continues of, yes, your petty domestic magic has no place among, and then just fucking Vienna with a folding chair.
Oh man, the way that she was describing what she believes are Rue's intentions and his motivation, like she's wildly misrepresenting him.
Yup. Oh, man, like, Susie.
it's like I love Anouk's version of Zosie so much. Like, if she were really like Anouk Caesar, she would be the coolest big sister ever. And I totally see it. And I'm just like, oh, why can't she just be like this for real? Why does she have to be such a...
Yep.
I was cracking while you were reading, just like, what is this Mary Poppins shit?
I know, right?
The work here is done.
Fucking Nanny McPhee over here.
Yeah.
I think Xerxes has forgotten one key thing. Huge blocks of curvature.
Oof. Yeah, that big copper pan. Yeah, smack her down, Vian. Smack her right down.
Well, pushing the evil witch into the oven is very traditional.
Oh man, the bit where Anouk is like
waterboard her in chocolate.
What? I missed that bit.
Oh, sorry, I lied. You finish what you were saying, and then I can get to the gruesome ideas of how Vian killed Zosie with domestic magic.
I was just saying, like, it's the bit where Anouk is like, oh, like, I would like to tell my mom, but, you know, I feel like there's things that I can't tell her anymore, but not like Zosie. I can tell Zosie anything. I'm like, no, don't tell her. Don't tell her anything.
Yeah, I was just thinking that Vian was gonna waterboard Zosie in chocolate or something. So, you know, I was going way darker than you were at.
No, you know what, you're right.
Chocolate.
We should start a death pool. Okay.
Charlie in the
We think Zosie is going to go and place our bets.
Okay, how did everyone die in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Exactly.
We've got Augustus Scoop went into the chocolate river. So the chocolate waterboarding.
We didn't die there. Did they?
There was the blueberry girl.
Violet Beauregard.
Well, I mean, technically.
Yeah. I mean, like, oh yeah, they were all fine in the end.
You didn't see them for the rest of the film, but you were told they were fine.
Yeah, they went to a
farm upstate.
Chocolate. A candy farm.
Exactly.
I mean,
For liability reasons, we can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah.
In the Tim Burton movie, you see them all at the end. They're not fine, but they're not dead either. So.
Veruca Salt, she went down the squirrel hole.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Mike TV
Got
With
shrunk.
got stretched.
Was shrunken and then got stretched.
Yes.
Thin.
She
Was
makes
that all
caramels,
of-
right? So, you know, rolling Zosie out on the whatever she used to like stretch caramel and stuff.
Oh my god, yeah. Pull her like taffy.
Yeah,
But,
just
like,
like
not
pull
like-
the evil witch out of her like taffy. Like leave her there and just like magically suck it out.
Yeah. Yeah, just like plunge her hand like straight down Zosie's throat and like pull all of the evil just straight out of her.
Oh my
It
god.
is fake.
What would Zosie be without the evil witch inside of her?
A mousy
what do you
little
do with the evil
person
witch
that
part?
it shows on film.
Maybe she'd revert to the little mousy girl
Yeah.
who opened the piñata.
Maybe she'd be a liqueur.
She would. Chocolate. Ooh.
First, Rue does actually have a boat. He ramps it right out of the sand like Speed 2. Down on her. Like the shoes sticking out like Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes, the lollipop shoes. Oh no, I give myself a stitch. That's painful.
Man, the bit where Anouk was walking around Zosie's room wearing the shoes, and we know that the shoes have like a little sigil in the bottom of them to influence her, just like so insidious.
Oh god, when she's all like, oh, you know, like, well, your mother and I have been talking and like we've decided, I mean, she's decided. Like, oh.
And I didn't think she would be this jealous. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Your mother's not like us, Nanu. Not like you and me.
I still don't get what her, like, how exactly she's gonna take Vian's life over. Like, is she gonna genuinely impersonate her, or is she gonna get rid of her? What's her plan? I don't get it.
Like, she's trying to take over the life of Vian Rocher, right?
Yeah.
So that's a traveling chocolate person who goes around with Anouk, right?
So you think she wants to take Anouk away with her, not like take over for Vian in the chocolate shop in Montmartre and get rid of her and like.
No, I think that she's gonna. We have a fair amount of book left, so I think there's probably enough time for her to convince Anouk to leave, and the two of them leave, and then after that it's resolved somehow. That's my prediction.
See, I'm thinking like she did talk about having the chocolaterie as like a center of power and like weaving her shit around the city.
Yeah.
I think like my theory is that she is planning on keeping the chocolate shop. But
She's gonna franchise.
But like engaged in some kind of glamour ritual that will convince everyone else around her who always has been Vian. Not Vian. The stranger.
You folks are going to love the end of this book.
Oh.
Oh, we should say goodbye to the catch-up crew. We're still going. Fuck. Okay.
Oh no.
Catch-up crew.
Sure, they'll enjoy our predictions.
Maybe that. Yeah. Catch-up crew.
Hey, catch up.
Hi. Hey, catch-up crew.
Hey.
Stop seducing the catch-up crew. Catch-up crew. How do you think this is going to end?
Answers on a postcard.
Sorry. Answers on a postcard. We love you. Love you, catch-up crew. Goodbye. Goodbye. Oh wait, no! Don't leave the recording. No wait, stop! Everyone, keep
Stop the
waving.
recording.
Keep waving. Stop the recording. Goodbye. Goodbye. Boop 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 doo 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 doo. Story time.